Welcome to our circle. We often talk about the circle of the universe or the circle of life. And at Oakwood, we speak of the circle of success. And it is within that circle that we embrace our values, our value of people, hard work, hands-on, innovation, a positive can-do attitude, and passion. But what is that passion on a day-to-day basis? I turn to the circle of care and I ask them, what is that passion? What does it mean on a day-to-day basis when that passion is unleashed?
When I think of passion, I think of a gentleman that I had the opportunity to work with at one of our homes, whose name was Nick. He was a very interesting gentleman and actually became a very important part of my life as I worked at our home. Nick moved into our home a fairly frail gentleman. He wasn't able to do much for himself and was quite confined to small places within Riverside Glen. We started working together in our men's exercise class, where we started just simply with 1 day a week, getting the men together 1 day a week. And Nick was, very dedicated, and was quite the motivator to get other gentlemen to participate. From there, he was able to expand his life outside of the facility. He could now go up to the corner and have coffee and donuts with gentlemen within the community at the local donut shop just up the street, which was, bringing a part of the community back into his life that he had sort of given up hope on. And I think what I remember most about Nick was on the day that we danced together at the senior prom, and he was chosen to be king of the prom that night. And it is probably something that I will never forget, and how that passion was not only within me but also within him, a passion for life.
I remember the prom and you dancing with Nick and how important that was. But not only that, Nick walked for 4 years after that.
I work as a housekeeper. My passion is to make Danny as a young adult on our floor. And every time I go into his room to clean, he has stuffed animals everywhere. So this day I thought, well, I'm going to pin them up. So I pinned them all up on the privacy drapes. And he's got ones that talk and other ones that just hang. So when he came home that night, they put him to bed. They pulled the drape around, and he had a smile from ear to ear. He was so excited. So now every time I go in there and I have to wash the privacy drapes, I have to pin them all up in different places, and it makes him smile because it's all different again for him.
Patty, as I hear your story, it strikes me that the circle of care certainly is not just about nursing. The circle of care is about each of us in our role, yours as a housekeeper, and how you've been able to connect with Danny and to make Danny smile each and every day. And you know what? That's just so neat. As I'm hearing your stories today, I can't help but think of several other stories that have been shared by both Chi and Ruth, who couldn't be with us today. And I'd like to share their stories from their workplace by way of video.
Annie lost her will to live and became so deteriorated so much that her daughter wasn't able to look after her. And so I helped her through the steps of applying to long-term care, and she moved into the village of Erin Meadows. And on the day of admission, I was her admission nurse. And Annie came to the facility sad, pale, depressed, very withdrawn, and hunched over, and in a wheelchair that she didn't need to be in. But that was how Annie presented. And I took her down to her room, and she said, close the blinds. So I closed the blinds, and she said, pull the curtain around me, and I pulled the curtain around her. And to all intents and purposes, Annie was not going to be with us very long, and she was in the long-term care home to die. And she refused to come out of her room. She declined all invitations to come to activity programs. She wouldn't take part in physio. She wouldn't interact with other residents. And really, this was a very sad, sad case. And I had known Annie for a number of months prior to her admission, and I knew this was not the Annie of a few months ago. And, you know, over the next course of a few weeks, Annie didn't die. And so the staff began to meet Annie where she was at. So we had to adapt our routines to meet Annie's needs. And so the recreation therapists went in and they did her nails. And they began to build that trust relationship with her. And they began to build bridges with Annie. The physios went in to her room and they walked around the room with her. And the dietary aides discovered that she loved ice cream. And so they would take her ice cream. And over a few days and a few weeks, Annie gained weight. And that sparkle was beginning to return. And the nurses began to spend time with her and hold her hand and just talk to her. She was a school teacher, so they got her talking about her children that she would teach. And you know, Annie's life took a turnaround, and it was a teamwork approach. It wasn't one person that made the difference to Annie. It was everybody's approach. It was everybody's attitude. It was everybody's commitment and buy-in that made the difference to Annie. And at the end of the day, you know, Annie changed the face. I believe Annie changed the face on long-term care. Long-term care was not a place to die. It was a place to live. And Annie found her life. And life purpose today, 4 years later, for Annie is welcoming new residents into the facility, introducing them to the staff, introducing them to the programs. She's not the lady that sits in her room with her blinds closed and her curtains around her bed. She loves life.
Evelyn was 94 years old. She turned 94 just 8 days before she will pass. And Evelyn was cognitively 100%. She used to do crossword puzzles. She used to do Scrabble, all kind of games. And she did a lot. Evelyn did a lot of program with recreation until the last couple of months of her life that she started her life, you know, like the health started deteriorating so much. And the last few months of her life, even though she was a very spiritual lady and she used to pray a lot, but she became more spiritual because she knew that she was going to go soon. And she had a rosary in her hand and always she'll be praying. Even sometimes she doesn't have the rosary in her hand, her fingers will be moving. I didn't know how to pray with her being a non-Christian. But for that moment, I just saw a prayer that was framed on the wall. And I just went down and kneeled down on the floor and started reading the prayers from the wall. I felt really good. But I didn't know what to say in terms of her own prayers. But here I just saw these prayers on the wall and it was just a perfect thing, you know. So I prayed with Evelyn, you know, finished the prayers, and she was very happy and pleased, you know, closed her eyes, concentrating with the words. Probably she knew all the words by heart, but I had to read from the wall. It wasn't a matter of thinking whether it was right or wrong. For that moment, I never thought of my religion. I just thought of praying with this resident who really needed the help at that time, and she wanted me to pray with her. So, and even after she had passed, I went to her funeral, and it was my first time to go to a church.